Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get started with RockJockML version 0.2, loading your data and getting it ready for analysis in the program. So first of all, I'm just going to double click on the icon for the MATLAB app. I already have MATLAB running, but you don't have to have MATLAB running already. It'll start it automatically. If you are running a standalone version, then just click on the icon and it'll start up. Okay, so the first thing to worry about when you pull it up, it pulls up on the Setup tab, and there are other tabs you can click on to navigate through the program. But on the Setup tab, the first thing to look at is the internal standard and X-ray source. So I have three possibilities available for the internal standard: corundum, which is what was used in RockJock version 11, zinc oxide, which is what was used in RockJock version 5, and then a standardless analysis, and I have quartz in parentheses. I'll tell you why that is in a second. Okay, so when I choose the corundum, this standard to sample ratio box says 0.25 automatically. You can change that if you're doing something different, but 0.25 is what the RockJock 11 manual says to use, and so that's why it automatically changes to that. If it's zinc oxide, it changes to 0.111. That's what the RockJock 5 manual says to use when you're using a zinc oxide standard. So I'm going to change it back to corundum, but also if you choose the standard list, it'll just stay whatever it was before because it doesn't matter. Okay, so the internal standard is important for two reasons. First, that's what you're going to use to, if you have a known amount of internal standard present, that's what you're going to compare the peak intensities of the other minerals present to figure out the weight percent of the different constituents. But also, it's used when you first load up the data. The program will align the internal standard peaks as best it can with the program or with the sample pattern, because there's various ways you can get the angles of the peaks just a little bit off, and so just aligning everything makes sure there's no systematic error in the angles where the peaks are. Under the X-ray source, I have copper K alpha only available now, but I may add other X-ray sources later on. And the wavelength just goes along with the copper K alpha radiation. Oh, I forgot to mention that if I choose the standardless analysis, the reason it has quartz in parentheses there is because it will try to align the sample pattern with quartz peaks, but if there's no quartz in your sample, that isn't going to work very well. But I'll show you later on in another video how you can align your sample pattern, shift it one way or another manually later on in the process. Okay, so the next box here says initial data format, and has the starting 2 theta angle is 5 degrees, and then step size of 0.02 degrees, and the ending 2 theta is 65. That's the way the program is set up, or that's what the program is set up to deal with right now. I might add some things in so that will change in the future so that it'll be more flexible. Under the data box here, the main thing to look at right now is this load data button. I'm just going to click that. It's going to pop up a dialog box, and I'm going to click on or navigate to a folder where I have some X-ray diffraction data in the right format for this program. So the previous video showed how to get your X-ray diffraction data into this right format. So I'm just going to click on one of them, and it will pop me over to the optimization page where it has your sample pattern plotted. And it also, the red, that's the blue. The red here is just the internal standard pattern. So you can see how it lines up with your sample pattern and which peaks are going to be attributed to the internal standard rather than the minerals in your sample. Now, I'm going to go back right now to the Setup tab. Show you a couple more things. Now, you'll see here in this number of samples loaded box, it says 1 because we loaded 1 file. I'm going to hit this Clear Samples button, and it'll go back to 0. If I go over to the optimization page, there's nothing there. So I'm going to go back to Setup. But this time I'm going to click this checkbox, the multi-sample checkbox, and click Load Data again. I'm going to navigate again to my folder with the X-ray diffraction data. But now I can't select any of these data files because it wants me to select a whole folder. What happens when you select a whole folder is it will look in that folder, and every file in there with a .txt extension on it, it'll assume that is a data file. You can have any other kinds of files in there and it'll ignore those, but if it's a .txt file, then it's going to assume that it's your data file. So again, in the other video, the previous video, I showed how to prepare those data files. So I'm going to just say open here, and it'll open all of those files. Now I'm on the optimization tab again, but here I can go over to the pattern number drop-down box, and I can select, right now I'm on pattern number 1, so the first file to open. Now I can go to pattern number 2, pattern number 3, pattern number 4. Okay, so all of those files, the data files that were in that folder, are now loaded, and I can go between them like this. So that's it for this video. In the next one, I'll be talking about how to get started analyzing your sample.